What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Hope you all had a fantastic day. What's the date here? September 22nd, 2022. Important updates here for you today, guys. A new article was published by a certain infamous, notorious World Forum that talks about climate change, but not so much climate change in the regular sense, but climate change in the greater context of smart cities, even more specifically, carbon emissions, individual carbon emissions, aka you're emitting too much and you need to take an alternate route with your Tesla. Not the route, not the scenic route, not the one you want to go on. So we're going to force you to take that route because we're self-driving vehicles. That's the future, this article is sort of hinting towards, but a new trend that is on the horizon. There's a little chatter about it, but it will become the primary focus, right, is number one, the climate, but climate lockdowns. Okay, there will come a time where there will likely be a sliding spectrum of some sort to grade the level of danger when it comes to climate change, the weather, heat, right? So for instance, we had that as sort of like a barometer of the terrorist fear mongering after 9/11, right? We had the threat matrix that they put up where it's a green day, it's a yellow day, oh my god, it's New Year's Eve, that means the terror threat level is on red. We had it with the Cold War, with the doomsday clock. What else do we have it with? We had it with COVID, outbreak zones, different geographical outbreak zones. It's can't go here, you can go here, so on and so forth. Climate is the next big thing where they're going to apply that idea, right, as another means of segmenting out the population and getting them sort of on like a more linear grid system type of path, right? Because if you have to do certain things a certain way or avoid certain things because of whatever, because of COVID or because of climate lockdowns and restrictions, you're more predictable, right? If you're restricted in that way. So climate lockdowns, it's what's discussed in this article, or at least what essentially is hinted at. But the biggest primary point of this entire article is the fact that you, as a carbon-based life form, right? That is what you are, I believe. It's all humans watching this right now, right? It's nobody else. You're made of carbon, right? And if they're going to start to target individual emissions, what are they going to do? Mandate that you don't go over that line? What are they going to do? Say it's for the species? Say it's to avoid extinction? So guys, we're going to get deep into smart cities. What are they? How close are they from happening? Will they happen? Are they a realistic reality, a potential reality that you can see happening? And we're going to get a little bit into how climate change is going to serve as a sort of planetary emergency, the term that I use to describe I think it's a few of the major existential threats that they claim and maybe possibly are facing humanity on a global scale. Overpopulation, food shortages, global pandemic. I always throw UFOs in there because one day, I swear to God, that's going to happen. And there might be another one that I'm forgetting, water or stuff, who knows, right? Planet emergencies require global cooperation, right? And this is just one step in that process to take and seize complete control on a global scale under the guise of global cooperation to combat, in this case, climate change. So guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. I'm over on Rockfin, rockfin.com/memoryhold. We're doing really great over there. I'm having a great time on this platform. Almost at 1,968. Go check it out. It's not just videos. You can go over to the podcast tab, which I don't have anything in there yet, but we've also got articles. I'm actually just about to throw up another article right after this, as a matter of fact. So definitely go to Rockfin. If you want to subscribe, go the extra mile. $9, almost at just $10 a month, you can unlock everyone's premium content. My content. Look, Titus Frost is live right now on Rockfin, and only Rockfin, by the way. You're not going to catch this on YouTube or be live where it used to be and where I used to be. It's going to be on Rockfin.
Like one of the most
So go check that out. BitChute as well, bitchute.com/memoryhold. Let's roll the intro, and then let's get down to business. This shit is important. You're not going to want to go anywhere.
Slipping away
All right. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining. Appreciate you stopping by. Okay, this is going to be up on Rockfin, BitChute, and YouTube. What are we talking about today? We're talking about something, a phrase that you haven't heard before. It isn't climate lockdowns, even though that is also a phrase that many of you haven't heard before, but you will hear. You will hear. We're talking about something entirely different, in fact. Something far more problematic. It's called My Carbon, an approach for inclusive and sustainable cities, but more specifically, my personal carbon allowance. How much carbon am I allowed? How can I log the amount of carbon that I'm using? Excuse me, let me get this off your screen there. How can I limit but also monitor the amount of carbon I'm using? I want to be a good citizen. Now, you'd hope that you live in a world where that's the self-reflection, that's the thought process. Look, if you want to do it voluntarily, go ahead. But if we're talking about the extinction of the species and the survival of our species, if that's all dependent on being sustainable, right, and sustainable development goals, do you think they're going to just allow you to be a good citizen all on your own? It's going to be mandated, legislated, pushed, whatever it might be. And you, as a carbon-based being, well, you're made of carbon. So, I mean, if we're talking about limiting carbon here, and we've already discussed just how into overpopulation these people are, or rather against overpopulation. These people want to depopulate the planet big time. They're talking about all the different ways to depopulate the planet, right? It's interesting. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to open up with a fictional universe that explains exactly what it's going to be like if this plan is to succeed, if these smart cities roll out, if truly everything is connected, if we all end up under some centralized government system. This is what a day in the life is going to look like. Welcome to my city, or should I say our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. It might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense for us in this city. Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, all these things became free. So it ended up not making sense for us to own very much at all. First, communication became digitized and free for everybody. Then, when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price, and it made no sense for us to own cars anymore because we could call a driverless vehicle or a flying car for longer journeys within minutes. We started transporting ourselves in a much more organized and coordinated way when public transportation became easier. Quicker and more convenient as well, by the way, than the vehicle, personal car. Now I can hardly believe that we accepted congestion and traffic jams, not to mention the air pollution from combustion engines. What were we thinking? Sometimes I use my bike when I go to see some of my friends. I enjoy the exercise and the ride. It kind of gets the soul to come along on the journey. funny how some things never seem to, or it's funny how some things seem never to lose their excitement. Walking, biking, cooking, drawing, and growing plants, all very exciting. It makes perfect sense and reminds us of how our culture emerged out of a close relationship with nature. Indeed. In our city, we don't pay any rent because someone else is using our free space whenever we don't need it. My living room is used for business meetings when I'm not there. Once in a while, I will choose to cook for myself, though. It's easy. The necessary kitchen equipment is delivered at my door within minutes. Since transport became free, we stopped having all those things stuffed into our home. Why keep a pasta maker or a crepe cooker crammed into our cupboards? It's stupid. We could just order them when we need them. This also made the breakthrough of the circular economy easier. When products are turned into services, no one has an interest in things with a short lifespan. Everything is designed for durability, repairability, and recyclability. The materials are flowing more quickly in our economy and can be transformed into new products pretty easily. Environmental problems seem far away since we only use clean energy and clean production methods. The air is clean, the water is clean. There we are, excuse me. The air is clean, the water is clean, and nobody would dare to touch the protected areas of nature because they constitute such value to our well-being that it's undescribable how important it is. In the cities, we have plenty of green space and plants and trees all over. I still do not understand why in the past we've filled all the free spots in the city with concrete. Shopping? I can't really remember what that is. For most of us, it has been turned into choosing things to use. Sometimes I find this fun, and sometimes I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my taste better than I do now. When AI and robots took over so much of our work, we suddenly had time to eat well, sleep well, and spend time with other people. The concept of rush hour makes no sense anymore, since the work that we can do can be done at home at any time. I don't even really know if I would call it work anymore. It is more like thinking time, creation time, or development time. For a while, everything was turned into entertainment, and people did not want to bother themselves with difficult issues. It was only at the last minute that we found out how to use all these new technologies for better purposes than just killing time and masturbating. My biggest concern is all the people who do not live in our city. Those we lost along the way. Those who decided that it all became too much, all this technology. Those we lost along the way, those that decided it all just became too much. Where are they now? What are they doing? Would we be one of the people that we lose along the way? Those who felt obsolete and useless when robots and AI took over big parts of our jobs. Those who got upset with the political system and turned against it. They live different kinds of lives now outside of the city. Some have formed little self-supplying communities. Others just stayed in the empty and abandoned houses in small 19th century villages. Once in a while I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. Nowhere I can go and not be registered. I know that somewhere everything I do, think, and dream of is recorded. I just hope that nobody will use it against me. All in all, it's a pretty good life. Much better than the path we were on, that's for certain. The path where it became so clear that we could not continue with the same model of growth. We had all these terrible things happening. Lifestyle diseases, climate change, the refugee crisis, environmental degradation, completely congested cities, water pollution, air pollution, social unrest, and unemployment. We lost way too many people before we realized that we could do things differently. The end. That is the end of the story. Pretty interesting. Does that seem like an unrealistic reality to you, that future? The idea of having no privacy and just willingly give it away? The idea of never really owning anything? I can see how a lot of that could be commodified, the transportation revolution too. Well, I'll tell you where that story is from. That story is a news article. It's from Forbes. It's a little older. It's from November 10th, 2016. It's called Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. So it's not a story I made up. It's actually just a story reflecting a future that might be rolled in should these lizard people here end up calling the shots. And kind of already are. And I'm just kidding about the lizard stuff. When I say that, I don't actually mean it. It's a joke. So it is kind of funny how we barely knew about these people all the way back then. We were so focused on people far smaller. But anyway, let's continue here and actually start with this. Sometimes every once in a while you find something published, something is made public, something is published in the media or whatever it is, and it's so fucking bad that it really just serves as a barometer of how far things have gotten. Because if they feel safe publishing this, straight up telling us we won't own anything in the future, we'll have no privacy. They even drop a few crazy fucking ideas. For instance, at the end where they said, I know that everything I think, feel, is being monitored, and I hope they don't use it against me. But when they say dream, think what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm dreaming, that is going to be more than likely possible in the future, right? So they drop some nuggets in there that are really reflective of some scary potential realities, but let's get to this article, guys. I want to keep this as brief as possible. Once again, please be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. That's rockfin.com/memoryhold. If you can't do that for whatever reason, I mean, you've signed up for YouTube. I don't know why you can't just make another account on Rockfin. Do it there. It's more fun, less censorship. Memoryhold on BitChute. Memoryhold, BitChute.com/memoryhold. And lastly, if you want to throw me a tip, if you want to throw a couple bucks into the hat, you can do that. You can do that if you want. You can do that. Just take a $5 bill and go like that. Just take a $1 bill and go like that. If you're not in the mood to do that though, even if you're rich but you're just not in the mood to give me a dollar or two, that's totally cool. Just share my video, follow me on Rockfin. All right, let's go. My Carbon, an approach for inclusive and sustainable cities. Always remember that one of the main tenets of the belief system, the goals, the objectives of these people is a smart city type of foundation, where being as overpopulation is going to be a essential element driving their plan forward. Because remember, this is an open conspiracy in the way that they're going about it. They straight up tell us what they're going to do, right? But they do it out in the open, and they use things like climate change, overpopulation, food shortages, etc., to make it seem like a noble cause. What they're doing is for a noble cause, right? They certainly never grab any extra surplus power if they don't need to. It's always for a noble cause. But now that might be explainable for something like 9/11 or COVID, or the response to the Boston Marathon bombing, right? Where they can just go back and say, look, yeah, you're right, we did go a little overboard. We shouldn't have done comprehensive lockdowns like that. Retrospectively, yeah, I can totally see why. But now those weren't global. COVID was global. But, certain things when they take, I guess what I'm trying to say is now it's a global thing. It's an issue for every single person on the planet, this group of people. Because if you're fighting global problems, you need global cooperation. And what does Klaus always say? Public-private partnerships. It's all about public-private. Listen to that buzzword and you'll see what I'm talking about. So let's get the summary going here. This is the main points. While transport and buildings are the major drivers for emissions in cities, the share of individual emissions is significant. Personal carbon allowance programs have had limited success due to a lack of awareness and fair mechanism for tracking emissions. Yet there have been major developments in recent years that can help realize My Carbon initiatives. So My Carbon is going to be like their official program. Cities across the world account for almost 75% of our total carbon emissions. And important to note here, guys, what I wanted to say before, but I lost track of myself, is the future if the future rolls out the way people like, say, Jacques Attali say it does. Remember, we did talk a little bit about his book, A Brief History of the Future. Jacques Attali being sort of like the France's version of Henry Kissinger, right? A big boy, you might want to listen to him, right? He talked about a world where there'll be very little humans living off the land, self-sustaining themselves, living out in the boonies, right? Not dependent on the state or the metropolitan areas. He said that's going to be rare, and instead the earth and civilization will congeal so thoroughly it'll it's the entire human population will essentially just be dispersed across all of these different mega cities, right? Mega cities. He said there's nowhere else people live. There's no one living in beautiful, empty rural fields where there's not too many, not a big population. No, everyone's living in these major, what he calls mega cities. And he said the ability, your place of residence, you won't have homes, you're going to have apartments. And he said the apartments will have, will be extremely tight, extremely small, essentially, is what he explained it as. He explained it also as, filled with degenerate desires where, your surrounding is going to be so miserable. It's such a densely packed area with all of over 10 million people in one city in such a small fucking apartment. That you're just going to fall victim to your hedonistic creature desires to get away from like what hellscape you have to live through in the future. So I want to make that clear that if we're talking about population still fleeing to the major metropolitan areas to the point where they become mega cities, you can see why smart cities would be a goal if you're trying to centralize power via technology. Because if you manage to get all of us in singular spots around the earth, instead of all over the place, occupying all the lands, if you manage to get us in a mega city here, a mega city there, all you have to do is have the city, the physical structure of the city, connected to the physical structure of your body and the digital structure of your body, aka your phone. So it will be quite literally where the grid system is truly put into place, the ultimate connectivity between people and cities. The city will use data from you as you walk through it to inform changes it makes. For instance, a smart city might use technology that measures vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic by using the GPS location data emanating from whoever's in the area. So they might look at a part of the city and say, oh, this is basically dead, there's no one here. That would then automatically, using AI machine learning, would then tell the traffic light system to switch from red to green a lot faster because no one's there. Kind of sounds like a stupid example, but do you understand what I mean? If you look at a lifetime map of a smart city, let's say you had a map of a smart city, you're looking down from above at a map, but the map displays only data that's happening right now. So every little dot on your map, hypothetical map I'm talking about, is a single person walking, right? And where they're most concentrated is like a heat map. It's a red area, right? They're most concentrated here. Well, because you see them super concentrated, maybe you'll click on, why are all these people standing together like that? That's weird, what's going on? And then you notice that it's a walking path that is too tight, too narrow. So people are backed up, they're not able to walk through. What will happen is the city will flag that and it will be flagged for construction. You're going to widen that walkway, right? Again, silly example, but this is the type of dynamic, complex system that's going to come into existence here if they are successful. Let's continue here. Personal carbon allowance programs have had limited success. Yeah. And then the major developments in recent years. So cities across the world, yep, 75%. As countries move towards implementing their pledge for a net zero future, urban areas will remain the action ground for decades to come. While transport and buildings are the major driver for emissions in cities, the share of individual emissions are significant at around 40%. Guys, if our individual emissions is all the way 40%, there's no fucking way they're just gonna let us volunteer for these types of programs. They're gonna mandate the fuck out of them in some way. Look, individual emissions are significant, around 40%. Inclusivity of citizens is becoming the most important element of success or failure in the journey towards sustainability. Community led initiatives can make a significant contribution towards sustainability, increase resilience, and social cohesion. So they're saying that community led initiatives can make a significant contribution towards sustainability, increase resilience, and social cohesion. Where have we recently heard that, guys? Have you guys been watching my elite mindset analysis videos? We've done quite a bit, although I forgot to keep labeling them as such. Whoops. Social cohesion. Where did we talk about social cohesion? It was in the scientific breeding, eugenics, and depopulation video, I believe. Either that or scientific, no, it was scientific precision, world domination, planetary emergencies video, all the way down here. Because Bertrand Russell was talking about how war for so long had served as the primary driving factor of social cohesion. You know what I'm saying? Um, and now what they're saying is like, these little community led initiatives can have an important increase on social cohesion. But this brand new type of social cohesion, and by the way, when they say community led initiatives, what they're talking about is like they would call Black Lives Matter community led. Like, no, it's not. Like, no, it's fucking not. If it's community led, I don't know. It's definitely not only community funded, is what I'm gonna say. You get what I'm saying? So that's what they mean by community led, like these little gay ass activist endeavors that just give you a fucking headache, These little fucking loser activists that the only thing they are dedicating their lives to is like making it mandatory for kids to wear rainbows for the entire month of June for the grades 3 through 6. That's the community led initiatives that the fucking forum here has in mind for you. Understand? So it's ridiculous. Let's continue. There have been numerous examples of personal carbon allowance programs in discussions for the last 2 decades. However, they had limited success due to a lack of social acceptance, political resistance, and a lack of awareness and fair mechanism for tracking my carbon emissions. So I love how, due to lack of social acceptance, well, why do you think that might be? Any idea why there might be, no social acceptance of a personal carbon allowance program? Any idea? Yeah, it's because it's technological enslavement. Like, you have to change your entire life around this fucking carbon geckos here that say, bare minimum, you can't go over this line of like emissions per day. Like, that's the real risk. And again, if we're gang banged and psychically raped 24/7 with propaganda saying you're going to end the world, it's almost the end of the world, overpopulation, the end of the world, climate change, don't go outside today, the hot is particularly hot today, you might get burnt. It's like people will bend over backwards. If Joe Biden came on the television today and made an announcement that he discovered who God really was and he brought him out onto the stand, and it was just some political intern, like a lot of people in the United States would worship that at him as God. Like, these people, you get what I'm saying? You scare people enough, you can condition them to like 100 times better, right? That's what Pavlov found. Funny, interesting little fun fact about Pavlov and his studies. We know about the basic shit of his studies, the conditioning, right? You ring the bell, the drool starts. Oh, wow, I trained a dog to start drooling before I even ring the bell. Well, those dogs, some of them almost drowned one night. They almost drowned, and I believe what this was in William. It was in what book was this from? William Sargent's Battle for the Mind, right? MK Ultra, Doctor, possibly. He talked about the dogs almost drowning right before the experiment results were measured, the night before or something like that. And he was arguing that that's how they also discovered that fear plays a major role in the ability to condition someone or something. They said animals, but we know it's humans too, because we're conditionable as well. And he said the ones that were more fearful, the ones that had almost drowned versus the dogs that didn't, they were all, he managed to condition them all, but the ones that almost drowned, he said they were a lot easier. So undergoing psychic torture, COVID all day, every day, it does shit to you. We already know stress has effects on the mind, duh, obviously, but it also has effects on the body, right? It also has effects on your immune system. And then God knows the type of effects it has on your cognitive mental state, some of which I just kind of broke down to you. So fear is the primary driver of fucking all of this, and you will do fucking anything, including downloading an app on your phone to monitor your carbon and make sure that you reduce your carbon output. If you're scared to death almost all the time because of propaganda and you're demoralized and you're gullible, being asked to install an app on your phone and try your best to reduce emissions is like not a big deal. Pretty good result for being scared to death. Don't be like, oh shit, that's all I have to do. Oh, and I also play my part. I get to play my part. So they'll be excited to do it. Let's continue. Our world is transforming. Big community trends for sustainable cities. There have been significant developments in the last 5 to 7 years on social, environment, and technology fronts that could help realize my carbon initiatives for shaping the future towards smart and sustainable cities. Once again, guys, this is the future of the world. Smart and sustainable cities that will be mega cities, that will house more people than other agricultural rural areas. That will be the grid. That will be the anthill. That will be the data points on a circuit board, right? The hive mind, the emergence of the singular, writhing, undulating, disgusting blob of Reddit browsing tards. You know, that's what it is. That's the smart city, what it's going to be. Anyway, number one, wait. Yeah, okay, so specifically to mention 3 developments that are coming up here. COVID-19 was the test of social responsibility. Listen to this, guys. Listen very carefully. COVID-19 was the test of social responsibility. A huge number of unimaginable restrictions for public health were adopted by billions of citizens across the world. There were numerous examples globally of maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, mass vaccinations, and acceptance of contact tracing applications for public health, which demonstrated the core of individual social responsibility. Let's repeat that last part. What was that? What does it underscore? What does it demonstrate? The core of individual social responsibility. Yes, correct. Social responsibility. Social responsibility, the same thing that you'd hear. And what would be another socially responsible thing? Could it be, getting vaccinated, right? That's pretty socially that's responsible, because again, we're not looking out for ourselves anymore. We're past that. We're no longer an individualistic type of society. We need, because of these planetary emergencies, our daily lives are going to be converted to a more communal type of setup, a more communal type of framework where we rely our dependence that will become increasingly dependent on people around us or the state, right? There's one or the other, because we can't do it alone. That's the whole thing. The core of individual social responsibility will all have to be socially responsible in the future. We'll all have to do these carbon monitoring programs. We'll all have to get an electric car. There is not going to be a future where, Uncle Joe says, look, I don't want an electric car. I just want one of my own Mustangs. And the government's like, nah, bro, seriously, they're banned. We can't let you have one. It's the fucking environment, dude. You serious? Do you know how much those emissions are? You fucking crazy? We can't have that. I'm trying to save the world. Like, there is no choice. All of this would sound great if it didn't involve fucking enslaving you at the end of it, right? And what are they saying here? Compliance. What developments happened that made sustainable cities, what developments happened that have allowed us to make the biggest step towards sustainable cities is what they're talking about here. And what was listed as number 1? COVID was the test of social responsibility, aka compliance. Compliance. They psyoped the fuck out of us. They psyoped the fuck out of us the moment those goddamn videos came out of Wuhan where people were wiggling. I guarantee you that was psychological operations. I guarantee you it was fear tactics. I guarantee you those videos were either entirely fake, people paid to wiggle on the ground. It doesn't even matter. The whole point is it was from start to finish, a fear campaign, right? Whether it would set out to be one or not, it was, and probably provided rich behavioral information and data on humanity as a whole, right? How we reacted through all of this, how you can get a crowd, a mass crowd, the entire population of the United States to obey, the entire world to obey. So yeah, COVID-19 was the test of social responsibility, and you know what it told them? They will stay indoors for over a year if you tell them to, backed up with a sufficient enough amount of fear. They will get vaccinated or injected with something if you tell them to. Being as they, it already happened with something that's a brand new something. So they'll even do that. It's not like you're telling them to go get something they already knew about, whatever. No, you told them, hey, we're trying something brand new, like brand new. We don't have any, the distance, we don't know what is, long term. I don't know, but you got to take it. People are like, fuck yeah, dude, give it to me. Social responsibility. I got to play my part. Why do you think everyone is proud that they got the Pfizer? Proud. They got tattooed. They put the I'm vaccinated on their Tinder profiles, their Facebook profiles. Why? Because the powers that be are manipulating us and propagandizing the population into taking pride in following their agenda, right? They can take pride in their activism. They can take pride in standing up and having a role to play because they are the heroes. They have the hero complex. This is why Marvel is so fucking popular. People love a good superhero story. And if you make everybody all at the same time feel like heroes, the main character in their own story, they'll do some things for you, especially if you tell them that by doing it, you're helping to save the planet. Naturally, being as you're telling them it's to save the planet, anyone who does anything different is looked down on by these people. And not even just looked down on as a sense of opinion, right? Opinion doesn't play a role in this. Because if you look down on someone for not liking Metallica, that's kind of shitty, right? Like, Metallica can be your favorite band, but just because it's not mine doesn't mean that I'm any less than you. Well, to these people, when they look at you, they look down on you because on the cusp of human extinction, you still wouldn't get the injection. And that's all it's, right? They look at you as a fucking enemy. They look at you as a planetary fucking threat. So social responsibility, you felt the fucking pressure to get vaccinated. That was the most pressure I've ever felt when it came. I've never seen anything like it. It was like a dream, a bad dream. Now imagine the greater pressure of climate, where the apocalypse is truly going to be a thing on the table, right? Never at one time did the CDC say, hey guys, not entirely sure yet, but this could be an extinction event. No, they always said that, we all knew that it's going to get bad, maybe. And make no mistake, lots of people died because of COVID. I have a buddy that, from actually COVID, family, definitely from COVID, nothing else. It happened. A lot of people died from it, but when the day comes where they actually start turning the heat up and putting our species on the line and really fear-mongering that way, it's game over, dude. So yeah, now because of all of that, they know that they can go even further next time. They pushed us to see how far we would push back, and we didn't at all. So they take another step forward. They're gonna push us again to see if we say fucking stop. And then they're gonna do it again because we're not gonna say anything. Then again, and then again, and then again. Which is why they feel safe when they publish articles about how you're gonna have your personal carbon emissions measured in order to make a sustainable fucking city. What is this? I clicked a hyperlink somewhere, but I don't understand what this is. Personal carbons allowance revisited. This is a document here. Here we discussed how personal carbons allowances could play a role in achieving ambitious climate mitigation targets. Did I adjust the, sorry. So it looks like this is the official thing here. Let's take a look. Yeah, here we discuss how personal carbon allowances, or PCAs, could play a role in achieving ambitious climate mitigation targets. We argue that recent advances in AI for sustainable development, together with the need for a low carbon recovery from COVID-19 crisis, opens a new window of opportunity for PCAs. Once again, that idea of COVID as a springboard, that idea of COVID officially initiating the mass shuffle of the deck, the great transfer of wealth, the biggest in our history, right? Furthermore, we Furthermore, we present design principles based on the Sustainable Development Goals for the future adoption of PCAs. So they straight up say in the future it will be adopted, these carbon allowances. We conclude that PCAs could be trialed in selected climate conscious, technologically advanced countries. Repeat that. These programs could be trialed in select climate conscious, technologically advanced countries, mindful of potential issues around integration into the current policy mix, privacy concerns, and distributional impacts. So who do you think that would be describing there? I actually don't know. Oh, maybe okay, I think it's going to be Singapore. I think some other Asian cities or countries. Also, maybe like a Dubai. Like Dubai sort of has like a pseudo social credit system set up. Not a lot of people talk about that, but Dubai is one of those where if you are speeding on the highway, and a camera catches you speeding, they will mail you a ticket. And how do you pay for your ticket, your speeding ticket? Well, you don't show up at the office. I mean, you probably can. You don't show up at the courtroom. You don't do any of that. There's an app, a government digital app on your phone that includes everything about you. So if you had 3 tickets, one from 3 months before the one I just brought up, well, that would be present on there too. And what did we discuss previously on this channel? How these governments are beginning to make their own digital apps so we can segue into a digital identification, digital ID system. Let's go down. If you head over to rockfin.com/memoryhold, you're going to see that we talked exactly about something like this, but more specifically, give me one moment, because this is a good video that you're going to want to check out. Damn, how far down is it? It's the one with Ukraine where they talked about the digital fucking... Here it is, right here, guys. My bad. All right, you want to check these videos out. Watch this one. The WEF, we know what that stands for, the World Blank Forum. Operative behind the digital blockade of Russia is head of digital transformation. So if you look at this guy, Mikhailo Fedorov, he's the head of digital transformation in Ukraine, right? Note the event, Ukraine, the country that has taken over the narrative, handed off to it from COVID. It's taken the reins to distract from essentially an entirely failing narrative that they can't keep going, with all of the illusions that served as the basic primary tenets of the framework to make the COVID illusion tick, have been exposed or just pushed under the rug and no longer discussed or relied upon, right? Stuff like that. Mandates are dropping. Testing is dropping to go places. People are now allowed to fly in certain places again. Other places like Canada, however, is bad. And you can go back on BitChute, bitchute.com/memoryhold. And I made a video because I was examining the paperwork of Canada and their budget, how they're going to allocate money all the way up until 2030, right? Because I was interested. We all know that they're trying to get most of these plans done by 2030, right? That's what they're really pushing for. We have the WEF video. All of the WEF's timelines basically list 2030 as being the primary year in which they want to get this done. I'll give you another example. So we have WEF saying, you'll own nothing, you'll be happy. Agenda 2030, it's the year 2030. So 8 years from now, we're going to own nothing. That's the timeline they want. And that's the timeline they write about in their articles. what you'll see here in a moment. And by the way, guys, these notes will be over on Rockfin if you want the sources. Okay, so I'm all down for critics. If you want to leave a comment because I got something wrong, if you want to call me out on something else, I mean, that's good and everything, but don't do that if you haven't checked the fucking sources first, okay? That's why I take the time to write this. And I also included some blurbs from myself that I wanted to expand some context on. So this will be over on Rockfin. Just go to Rockfin, my memory hold page, and click the article section, okay? And you'll be able to find that there. But guess what? We're going to see it in a sec, but the Australian government, as well as New Zealand, are very far ahead in the whole smart city thing. In fact, they actually have working prototype smart cities. Not that they build smart cities, you know, from scratch, from start to finish. It's not like they're building brand new cities. They're transforming already existing cities into smart infrastructure, essentially, okay? And guess what their goal is? The goal of the Australian government's smart city plan proposal is to get all of this either done or on the right track, the major legislation obstacles, get it on the right track in time for what year? 2030. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is the WEF is entirely separate from the Australian government, right? So when you have the WEF calling for shit like smart cities by 2030, and then you also have the Australian government calling for smart cities by the year 2030, we've heard the year over and over and over again. Do you get what I'm saying? So whether it's coincidental or otherwise, the point is that these are major leaps forward, more than we've ever seen, the biggest we've seen in such consecutive steps. The last 6 years has been insanity. It's almost like they knew they were going to turn the fucking heat up, right? They let Donald Trump get in, so it was sort of like a pressure valve for people. It let them let out their anger and shit because they knew we had a few rough years ahead of us, right? So let's continue with the article. This is an example of the circular economy, which I'm not entirely sure I understand fully yet, but the idea is with the circular economy, that's something they stick with. And it has to do with the life cycle of fourth industrial revolution technologies, right? The life cycle from creation to reuse to whatever. This is their whatever. And you're going to see this in the first article, the Welcome to 2030, Welcome to My City. They talked about the circular economy, and they're also talking about that here. So circular supply chains and materials starts with product design, then it goes to sourcing, manufacturing, then marketing and sales and distribution, and then use, reuse, share and repair, collection and reverse, you know, shit like that. It's kind of boring. Let's move on. But it's important, even though it's kind of boring. Now is another really interesting one, is where we get to the transhumanist side of all this, guys. Fourth industrial revolution technology breakthroughs. Advances in emerging technologies, you know, like AI, blockchain, and digitization can enable tracking personal carbon emissions. Personal carbon emissions. They can also be used to raise awareness and also provide individual advisories on lower carbon and ethical choices for consumption. So right here, what's going to happen is provide individual advisories. What's going to end up happening is you go to the store, you got to get food for the week, got a couple hungry kids at home. What's going to happen is you buy a nice fat juicy steak from the store and you hear a ding, bing. You look at your phone and it's a push notification, not really any different than a COVID push notification that you would get, right? If you had those enabled, or if you bothered to look up what they looked like, because they're so fucking Orwellian. And the notification would say something like your meat consumption has been, 50% higher than the meat consumption from the previous month. Here's some helpful tips as to how to avoid meat consumption and be and look out for the environment. Also, just a reminder, before you go to that checkout, remember that kids are starving to death because of the food shortages climate change causes, and climate change comes from what? Meat. So if you do decide to get that meat, just remember those kids dying slowly. You ever see that pic of the kid with the vultures watching him, waiting for him to die? Think of him when you pick up that steak next time. Shit like that. That's what they mean when you're going to get individual advisories on lower carbon and ethical choices. Here's another example. Cars of the future are going to be electric, either by mandate or simply because that's just the way it goes. Likely by mandate, but also their propaganda is going to be so comprehensive and the conditioning in humanity so deep that they can essentially just suggest this and they'll do it. And humanity will walk willingly into a jail cell because they just are so charismatic that the jail cell looks pretty to them, right? Sounds good to them. Or they're told that not only does it look pretty, and they're convincing about that, but they say if you go in there, it'll also help save the world too. So these dumbasses walk right into the jail cell because they make it sound good. It's an illusion, right? Once again, a fucking illusion. But the other thing it would be an individual advisory for would be custom routes on the GPS, right? Let's say you put a GPS, a destination into your onboard Tesla GPS, right? It's all electric vehicles, all have computers inside. Well, the computer knows that you just said, okay, I have to drive up to, Miami, right? It's a 20-hour drive. No, not that long. Let's do a 25-minute drive down the road. You put in the scenic route because it's a beautiful summer day and you want to bump some music and enjoy the road. Well, the scenic route is longer, so your computer, your Tesla computer, gives you an individual advisory. Isn't that what they call it? An individual advisory saying, hey, bro, totally cool if you want to help fuck up the planet like that, but here's some helpful thoughts. Here's some helpful considerations to make you a better planetary citizen. Number one, consider taking the Tesla and Google suggested routes. Step two, like fucking bullshit. Or at its worst, electric cars we're going to be entirely dependent on the state with our vehicles. Since they're all computerized, there's no longer any barrier between control of your vehicle if they chose and not controlling it. Like Michael Hastings, the CIA and others had to hack into his vehicle computer. And we looked at that as like, whoa, how fucking unique of an assassination was that? A lot of people were like, I never thought about that, right? I remember thinking that. I didn't know back in that day when I was still asleep. Well, as those are phased out and electric vehicles are either mandated or just everyone gets them, you've got onboard kill switches on every of them now, every vehicle. You don't have to work very hard to Michael Hastings somebody, who, by the way, if you don't know, he's a journalist that was killed in a car crash because his brakes failed and he drove 100 miles an hour into a wall or something like that. Classic story. He says he has a big story. He thinks his car is being fucked with. Can I borrow yours, bro? I'll bring it back at 5. Decides to get in his car anyway. Whoops, 100 miles an hour into a wall. One of those classic stories. But now it's got a kill switch. You can just remotely turn it off, right? Or you can look at another future trucker protest, right? Let's take a look at those trucker. Remember the convoy, the trucker protest up in Canada? That was bad because what happened there? They protested, and whoever made a ruckus up there, whoever was present there, ended up having their bank accounts seized, closed, because they're painting them as terrorists, and therefore that's terrorist funding. They were live streaming the event. Oh, bro, cool. Let me throw you $150 because I heard you say on the live stream that you needed food and supplies for the group that are peacefully protesting. Okay, sounds pretty reasonable. But now the route they're going, that's terrorist funding. We're going to seize your assets. You're engaging in traitorous, treasonous activity, right? So in the future, they're not even going to be able to get to the destination of protest anyway, because they won't allow those vehicles to do it. They will hit the kill switch, they will be turned off, and you won't even be able to get there because you will be detected by AI and will be flagged because your car has the protest zone as the destination plugged, put into the Google dashboard, the GPS in your car. So I'm ranting and raving about the potentials here, but it's true. That's basically what we're looking at here. Okay? So individual advisories is the whole idea. They drop it in here sort of subtly, but individual advisories will also be the my personal carbon emissions thing too, right? Where it first starts with little suggestions, how to be a better planetary citizen, but it's a slippery slope because those suggestions may one day turn into mandates because, well, our very species is on the line, right? Anyway, they talk about an app here and the Scale 360 initiative. The World Blank Form Scale 360 initiative demonstrates the use of fourth industrial revolution tech across the whole life cycle of products and services. Smart home, this is where it gets important because they say major advancements in smart home technologies, transport choices with carbon implications, the rollout of smart meters in providing individual choices to reduce their energy related emissions, the development of new personalized apps to account for personal emissions, and better personal choices for food and consumption related emissions. Major advances in those. AI can also help strengthen circular economy business models like product as a service models, demand predictions, and smart asset management by combining real time and historical data from products and users. Let's repeat that. AI can also help strengthen circular economy business models like products as a service models, demand predictions, and smart asset management. You know what that means? What did I tell you about the live time traffic monitoring that as the example of what a smart city can do? Okay. The smart city takes the data of all the people walking its streets and then uses that data to make a change within the city. Well, what can you do if you have access to real-time data and historical data? Real-time data and data from the past. Real-time data and every single data point of you watching this right now from the past 15 years. What can you do with that? There's a lot you can do with that, right? You can predict the future with that type of technology. You can predict medical ailments. You can diagnose them 5 years ahead of time, likely. If you have enough data, you can likely predict the behavior of large-scale crowds. At least in my opinion, if you took the data point and the data and had the data in live time, the city's worth of data in live time, and you're watching it from a bird's eye view, you can know a lot about people and you can control them fairly comprehensively. Let's take a look at this personalized, fun little app here that they're talking about. What could it possibly be? Looks stupid as shit.
The intuitive home assistant.
Oh, intuitive, huh? Ooh, fuck yeah, I remembered.
If you had the power to understand the electricity usage in your Imagine if you had the power to understand the electricity usage in your home by using an app. Introducing Home Assistant, an integrated smart metering solution that helps you figure out the electricity usage in your home. Simply plug in and let the intuitive Home Assistant help.
Hello, hello, hello. Oh, there we go. For some reason, my mic does that, so I gotta figure out what it is. It doesn't seem like a faulty connection, but that's what I thought it was. So anyway, right now they're making these flashy little advertisements. Look how cool it is. You could be a responsible planetary citizen, and it actually is kind of cool if you're a fucking dweeb that's into that type of shit, right? But again, this is the voluntary stage of it, guys. It's not going to stay voluntary forever. I think really what they're hoping for is that enough of us sign on with the objectives of the agenda, the objectives of the cabal, voluntarily, out as a result of propaganda and demoralization, right? I think that's what they hope, because then that would mean that they wouldn't have to have a physically coercive, emotionally coercive, psychically coercive population management approach, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, overpopulation is a problem. It's not going away. I don't think it is necessarily. That's their perspective. We have to use population management and control the population one way or the other, whether we like it or not. There's no choice in it because it's a reality if we keep going with current reproductive rates. It's just a matter of how will we depopulate it and how will we manage the population. We need to find creative, non-physically coercive ways to keep the ratio of deaths per year with births per year across each region of the globe. Now, they do things like contraception, they do things like allowing abortion, finding ways to legalize abortion because that helps the population, yada yada yada. But when push comes to shove, even if they can have high hopes for the population doing it all willingly, happily shackling themselves to the heater, right, becoming enslaved happily because they're so scared, but they're going to do whatever it takes anyway because this is the survival of the species. And if we don't have an adequate amount of people watching their carbon emissions, right, using this gay little fucking app, changing your routes every week, right, and going the long scenic route instead of the Tesla Google suggested fucking sustainable route, they're gonna play hardball because they have to do it or another. It's a matter of if we get fucking vaporized in a blast or if we willingly give ourselves over to the powers that be, to the techno lizards that are using scientific technique and the scientific method along with psychology and corrupted psychiatric methods to control populations on wide scales. Enough of this app. It's already been long enough. I've gone an hour and I really meant to go further, but there's a precursor that I want to tell you about, right? Smart cities just don't come out of nowhere. And there is a segue. There's a step in between that must be established before you can have a smart city. Because what is a smart city? A smart city is a city with ultimate connectivity, where the city itself is connected to the people within it electronically. Again, with my example, very light pedestrian foot traffic means the city takes that social media data, that GPS data, says, oh, there's no one in this region of the city, therefore, and it makes adjustments to itself because the AI says there's not a lot of people there because I have access to everyone's data and the GPS shows no one there. Okay, let's notify this part of the machine to do, and then fill in the blank. So this will be all in completely automated, right? Which is part of the smart city process. So if you don't have every physical device connected, you're not going to be able to have a smart city, at least not to the point of sustainability that you deem sufficient for your eyes. And to them, you're only as sustainable as the amount that you let them that you let them control you. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with sustainability, right? They'll only say that we finally have a sustainable city when all of us are fucking very clearly slaves. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or but. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we need the Internet of Things, right? Connect all of the devices up at once, because if we don't have the technological foundation, the framework, the technological capability to do a smart city, we're not going to be able to connect devices. We can't have a smart city. That's the whole point. So once again, that idea of we want to do this has been our plan all along, but we never had the technology to do it. And now we do, says the World Forum here, right? They just literally said that in the article yourself if you were paying attention. Julian Huxley, UNESCO, says the same shit. We've dreamt of this for a long time, but now it's been technologically possible for the first time to create a single world culture and a single world control system. There's been multiple people that have said it. One guy in the 1700s said the same thing, but in reverse. He said overpopulation is going to be a thing of the future, likely causing our extinction, something like that, very bad, and we need to be able to take control of it now before it gets so bad. But how are we expected to do that, he says? And he basically says, because we don't have the technology. So the guy in the 1700s is saying, yo, we need to control the world, managerial elite class of technocrats, overpopulation, gotta manage the population. Shit, I don't have the technology to do it. I live in a shithole 1700s village. Then they're saying the same thing now. Now it's so dope. Look at us. We got the technological capability to fucking do this overpopulation thing. That's fucking sweet, dude, for the first time. Dope. So it's just funny. The plan has been theorized, talked about for a very, very long time. So the Internet of Things, guys, like, this is your smart home. This is your Wi-Fi, like your refrigerator connected to the fucking internet. This is a camera on your Samsung television. This is an internet browser on your Samsung television. This is being able to cast a video from your cell phone to the random television that you bought that you didn't even know that function even existed. So the television just does it by default, right? It's not a super cool function of the new Samsung, right? No, you can just seamlessly overlap, right? Technologies, TV to cell phone, right? You have complete control over the digital environment around you because of the connectivity of everything. Smart toasters, smart lights. Using your iPhone, you can time and schedule when the lights turn on, when the lights turn off. With the little slider bar in your home app, you can dim the lights, you can make the lights brighter, you can control the temperature remotely, you can do everything, right? In other words, electronically. The world is blending with the digital and the physical. The physical is blending with the digital is blending with the physical. Inanimate objects, once again, I mentioned Jacques Vallée and his book, A Brief History of the Future. Remember at the beginning of the video, he's the guy that talked about and is predicting megacities, these massive 10 million people cities dotted across the planet where every single person lives. No one lives outside those cities, right? And he talked about a grid-like system, a smart city. He said inanimate objects will one day have connected pieces of technology, essentially, that transmit radio frequencies. Clothing will have this. He said inanimate objects will have this in order to monitor the physical environment around the object the chip is implanted in. He said this will revolutionize things like, and he gave an example of a dam with water. And he said with sensors embedded within the dam's concrete, it can live time data detect water level, how quickly that water is increasing, how low it's increasing, how much more you would need to put in there to make it high, how the current physical state of health of the dam. Did we lose any? Are there any physical destructive things that we need to get fixed? Do the sensors, do you get what I'm saying? Similar to if you laid a bunch of sensors on the ground in a city, as you walk over those sensors, you are detected by those sensors. So you can kind of see who's walking on the sensor in live time. Like, do you get what I mean? Jacques Attali predicted that megacities, smart cities, and the merging of the digital with the physical, down to the very idea that every piece of fucking object of clothing will have some type of tracker inside of it. And lastly, he even went on to say that everyone will also be microchipped. Interesting, right? Once again, Jacques Attali, Brief History of the Future. If you want to go over to Rockfin, I've got a analysis video on a segment of that book too. Let's continue. I really got to finish up. I apologize that I rant here, but I did want to do a project for a long time about smart cities. Pretty extensive, you know what I mean, where we really get into it, but so yeah, you need the Internet of Things, and on the World Forum website, they talk about it.
The intuitive home assistant.
Sorry. This is it. What is the Internet of Things? March 31st, 2021. The Internet of Things, another example of that would be a heart, what do they call those things that you put a pacemaker? A lot of the pacemakers now are electronic, right? Now, if you have a pacemaker that is, for whatever reason, connected to the internet, that pacemaker can be hacked. Right? So let's think of a fictional story of the daughter of a rich aristocrat, a rich philanthropist, right, is kidnapped, and she's got a heart condition. She's kidnapped, has a digital pacemaker. Or no, she's not kidnapped. She's not kidnapped at all. But the family is notified. The daughter has a heart attack. Her pacemaker stops working. All of a sudden, the next day, they receive a letter in the mail saying, that was me. I gave her the heart attack. I have complete control over your daughter's pacemaker remotely because I hacked it. I can make it work. I can make it stop working. I can just turn the machine off. And if you don't give me $10 million, I will turn the pacemaker off and kill your daughter. Right? So perfect example of the mixing of the digital and the physical. A man using digital technology can take an action that has a consequence in the physical world directly because you electronically hacked something. It has dire results of something physical, aka the girl dies because you hacked her internet connected pacemaker. Okay, So shit like that, Internet of Things is a prerequisite. It's kind of basic. Maybe I won't get into this, but soil moisture sensors being used to optimize farmers' yields, for example. Remember I told you, I just said a second ago, sensors, right? Sensors. Can measure water levels. It can measure all that shit. Here they're talking about soil moisture sensors, optimizing farmers' yields, right? Thermostats, thermometers, right? Billions of networked smart physical objects around the world on city streets and homes and hospitals are constantly collecting and sharing data across the internet, giving them a level of digital intelligence and autonomy. There are more connected devices than people in the world, which is fucking crazy. 41.6 billion devices will be capturing data on how we live, work, and move through cities. Notice they use that specifically, move through our cities, and operate and maintain the machines by the year 2025. And here's the growth rate of the Internet of Things, which is kind of interesting. So 2020 marks the spread of COVID-19. And again, we're using that idea of COVID-19 as a springboard, as the initiator to shuffle the deck, right? It's because of COVID that all of this is in motion. Let's think about something that would assist the Internet of Things in its creation, right? Perhaps, I'm trying to think, I don't know, work from home, working remotely. COVID proved that we needed to increase our reliance on digital technology, right? Essentially. We could still work from home, but we got to, do it remotely, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say, look at how big of a leap forward. They projected, this was the pre-COVID-19 projection for Internet of Things and how fast it would grow. But then, look, COVID-19 starts and then it just fucking escalates. And why would that be, you think? The digital transformation that is taking place due to emerging technologies, including robotics, the Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence is known as the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and COVID-19 has accelerated the use of these technologies. Yeah, that's put it far more elegantly than I could. They accelerated the use of these technologies, so therefore, that's why we want to adopt them faster. So let's start to wrap up the show. Here in just a few minutes, guys. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That would help me out a lot, for real. I'm really nervous that I don't think I'll ever have any traction again. I don't think I'm ever gonna have a voice on the internet again, guys, for real. I know you might be saying, what are you talking about? I'm hearing you right now, but yeah, but how many people are though, really? I've lost my opportunity to ever reach across the aisle and educate someone that used to be a skeptic, but now has been compelled and swayed by evidence. I miss that shit, man. So share my videos, man. Rockfin.com/memoryhold. Help you boy out. BitChute.com/memoryhold. Very lastly, you've got the tip jar up here. Tip jar, memoryhold, @memoryhold, PayPal, all that memoryhold stuff. So let's watch. I do have a video here. Let's talk about solving urban problems using technology.
The challenges of cities are changing rapidly. As we use more of that very finite resource of clean drinking water.
Again, finite resource of clean drinking water, food shortages, why? So right off the bat.
As we create more waste, we're going to have to think very differently about how to solve the problems. Our tendency is to think about solving problems the way we've always done them. But there's a completely different degree of complexity that's emerged here now in the 21st century. I often think about our highway system, and one of our recourses to congestion is to add another lane. Century. I often think about our highway system, and one of our recourses to congestion is to add another lane, because if you add another lane, more cars can flow. Turns out it doesn't work that way. More cars fill in that space, more cars change lanes, causing more congestion ultimately. That's a 20th century solution. A 21st century solution is to think about cars differently. Do we need to own cars? Will cars drive themselves? Will we use cars on demand?
There we go. You back? Sorry about that, guys. Jesus Christ. Well, I think that's going to be like a good place to end it. I forget what I was ranting about. That was frustrating. Sorry if that was a little bit longer than expected. So, guys, before I get going, please help your boy out, man. Rockfin. I'm really trying to drill. I know it's annoying, but think about it from my perspective. If you had to do this for hours a day, right? Grinding, prepping for these videos, reading the fucking books, spending all this time just to make sure that people can find your videos so they don't have to spend as much time you did learning. They don't have to worry about falling down the false path, right? Like I did when I first started because I didn't have anyone to watch that I knew who was credible, who wasn't, right? Spend a lot of time doing this shit. So follow your boy. Help me out. As much as I love to do this anyway and will always do it, it's really nice when you know people can fucking hear you and feel it compelling enough to share. So I just added a new video up. The Instagram cesspit yields another pedophile symbol confirmation. This video is about another group of predators I discovered on Instagram recently. I took down my Source Codes Demons documentary, the one about Instagram predators, social media predators, and how it connects to the dark web, because I'm going to re-edit some parts of it, remaster it. You can look at it as. And in the process, I was reviewing my notes, my old notes, shit that didn't make it in the film, and I ended up going back to Instagram, falling down the predatory rabbit hole and following these really nefarious accounts. And I found one that's like the most blatant usage of a pedophile symbol you will ever fucking see. So I reported the account to law enforcement as well, Instagram and law enforcement, cybertip.org or whatever it is. So check that video out. The big ones that I've really been that I'm really proud of, that I really think that you'll benefit from, is scientific breeding, eugenics, and depopulation as envisioned by Bertrand Russell. This is a very important presentation. This is talking about the scientific precision that is being deployed on a society-wide scale, as in with increasing organization. New technologies are made. With those new technologies comes more organization or ability to organize than we have ever had before. And when we are able to organize way more than we've ever been before, we're going to overdo it. It's going to be over organizing. And what do you have when you have technology that allows you to employ scientific technique to the entire population? You have basically what we're talking about here: interconnected. Everyone's connected at the same time. The physical is blended with the digital. You're on a circuit board. Your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams, your feelings are monitored in live time, can be detected ahead of time. What did we talk in this video here? Silent Weapons Part 2. We talked about how they want to turn your fucking sweat glands into antennas, guys. Your fucking sweat glands. They talked about how an Israeli team of researchers cracked the code. They developed a way and discovered that sweat glands absorb radiation. So if they beam enough electromagnetic radiation, your sweat glands absorb it. But if you have a high heart rate at that time, so if you're anxious, sad, depressed, or angry, about to bring a gun into a school, they can detect that using the electromagnetic radiation and the waves they're beaming into you. They themselves believe that this has important This is what they say, important implications for biology as well as national security. Like, goddamn. So they're talking about pre-crime, pre-cognitive technology, stopping shit before it happens, just like they talked about in this first article. Welcome to my city, the year 2030. My hopes, my thoughts, and my dreams are monitored. I just hope they don't use it against me. I just hope they don't use it against me. Well, guys, it's been another day, another video. Lots gone on in this video. Talked about a lot of important stuff. You know? And that's what we do here on the Memory Hole. I'd like to continue to do that. I'd like to continue talking about important stuff. But I'd like to do it across all platforms. Rockfin, BitChute, YouTube. But I need your help to do it. Spread my shit. Help your boy out. By the way, I'd like to shout out to today's sponsor. Eco-friendly, sustainable family development plans available now at New World Development. newworlddevelopment.com. Just use promo code MEMORYHOLD if you are about to raise a family, if you're pregnant, if you're about to become pregnant. Take a look. New World is there to help you throughout the rest of the way. Your personalized guide, a 10-year track record of successful baby birthing while in harmony and preserving harmony with that baby's environment around it. Promo code MEMORYHOLD. 50% off now. 75% off if you're having that baby in the next 2 months. We immediately put you in contact with one of our most efficient associates that will guide you hand in hand to a sustainable family. How many kids do you want? Oh, 5? Oh. You heard that? No, oh, honey, no, you can't have 5. No, I'm sorry. How many did you want? You wanted 2? Do you know where you are? This is New World Development, Sustainable Development Family Planning. Why would you ever think you can have more than one? Waiter.
Of lunar material, much of it debris from nearby impact craters. At first, in case of a contingency, samples were chosen and collected rather rapidly. Later, as operations continued to proceed smoothly, samples were chosen and collected more deliberately.